And here we are, show 6, the desire to create. And we're going to be focusing on the passage Creation 1:8. Dan, give us a look ahead here.
Have you ever thought about the possibility that God experiences frustration or loneliness much in the same way that we do? We're going to talk about that in this show. And we seemingly find an answer to the age-old question of, why are we here?
But it's that frustration and loneliness thing. I really want to get into that.
All right.
So, with that, I'm going to read Creation 1:8.
Eternal rest is intolerable, and unmanifested potential is frustration. Into the solitude of timelessness came divine loneliness, and from this arose the desire to create, that he might know and express himself, and this generated the love of God. He took thought and brought into being within himself the universal womb of creation, containing the everlasting essence of slumbering spirit.
Dan, as we go through this, there are phrases that come up in these passages that really stun me because they're so pithy and to the point. Namely, from Creation 1:8 is universal womb of creation. And when I read that, I'm wondering, is this the feminine side of Creator?
Very interesting thought.
Yeah, it is. So with that, let's break it down. And we're going to start with Creation 1:8:1.
Eternal rest is intolerable, and unmanifested potential is frustration.
Sometimes I wonder how God is so patient and extends so much mercy to me at times, Marshall. This verse sounds like where he developed these. I cannot begin to imagine how long he was in this state of intolerable eternal rest and unmanifested potential. This verse seems to indicate that this eternal rest and unmanifested potential was going to make him insane if something didn't happen. And that really paints an interesting picture that I can identify with, because we as humans who experience these emotions, perhaps both chemically and spiritually, we now see our Creator experiencing these same emotions spiritually. So I identify first with him very deeply, and secondly, it tells me a lot about how much of an emotion, what we call an emotion or a chemical response, is actually rooted in spirituality.
And a question it brings to my mind is, does this loneliness cause an alteration of time or the perception of time? It makes me think back to that song from many years ago by Gordon Lightfoot, "The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald," and in there he says the waves turn the minutes into hours, and that's something I'm going to keep in mind as we go on. And with that, I want to move forward to Creation 1:8:2.
Into the solitude of timelessness came divine loneliness, and from this arose the desire to create, that he might know and express himself, and this generated the love of God.
The suffering of divine loneliness humbles. It is without malice or anger. It evokes action toward growth, toward change. So this might be part of an answer to your question, Marshall. In humility, the desire to create was birthed from the suffering of divine loneliness. he was experiencing this emotion so intensely that a desire to create was birthed. Something changed inside of him. Something was birthed. That's what it says. There's something to learn here. We as humans suffer also and grow from it when the high road is chosen. So maybe our Creator can learn too from divine loneliness. He can change from it. But why did the desire to create arise? Why not something else? Well, it tells us very explicitly, and there are two reasons.
Mm-hmm.
He might know himself and that he might express himself. Now, these two are absolutely profound statements in theosophy. I mean, they can shake the foundations of belief systems here.
Yes.
The second is somewhat understandable. He's finally able to express himself after an eternal rest of unmanifested potential. And that's got to be a big, huge relief there.
Yes.
But the first one, it's an amazing statement that explains to me the entire universe and the answers. It literally answers the age-old question of why are we here? That he might know himself and that he might express himself. He created us so he was not alone. And
Right.
through us, he experiences an infinite variety of expression and comes to know himself. We are a part of the consciousness of God, coming to know who we are in him as he comes to know who he is through us. I'd be interested to know what you think about that.
Well, to me, it says that, that he might know himself, that he might express himself. Well, change that to that we might know ourselves, that we might express ourselves. And if we are a sliver of God,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean that we're a fractal sliver. In other words, that we would just wind up looking the same, but that it's our difference that is what helps us get through the loneliness. If we're all just the same, when we speak, we mimic each other, we say the same things. I don't know, is that one step away from loneliness? Whereas if we can respect each other for our differences, it's a whole different picture. That's my thinking on it.
I think we read in a previous verse about it existing harmoniously.
Yes.
And I think that that's something he desired, is that, it all be in harmony. But that's a powerful, powerful verse there. Truly a powerful verse.
It really is. It's existential.
It's pivotal.
Yes.
Me, it's pivotal.
Yes, I agree completely. And going forward into creation 1:8-3.
He took thought and brought into being within himself the universal womb of creation, containing the everlasting essence of slumbering spirit.
There's something mystical about this period of time in his existence. Something developing in his nature brought him to a point in his energy body that allowed him to finally manifest. Was it the divine loneliness? Well, that's what we read. There could have been other things going on. But I can't believe this is the first time he ever took thought. This verse says he took thought. I just have to believe that he'd been trying to make things happen for a very long time, and he got frustrated because he couldn't make things change. He couldn't create things.
Yes.
This time, go ahead.
Well, if we view this in a mortal perspective, where time is linear,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't really apply to creator. And what does time mean to creator? And again, I keep seeing this wrestling between the ancients and creator about the issue of time. And many people who have been able to tap into the Akashic records, a lot of psychics, spiritual people, tell us that on the other side, there is really nothing in terms of linear time as we know it here, that's an invention that helps us to understand our world. On the other side, everything is everything in the same moment. And so,
somewhere in that moment, something changed whenever he took thought.
That's right.
Because this time he took thought and finally something happened. Something important. The universal womb of creation
That's right.
came into being within himself. So it was smaller than himself, but it came into being within himself, this universal womb of creation. And this womb would bring about all of creation and many spiritual beings to carry out his deep desire for fellowship. So all that frustration and that momentum or that energy that's building up, kind of like steam in a teapot, it sounds like it's starting to whistle.
Yes, and as I'm thinking about it, my desire is to take time completely out of the matrix and focus on companionship.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's why he did it.
And that brings us to our God question. Well, Dan, when it came to the God question, I was really happy that you didn't use the word time. And your question is excellent. Why don't you share that with the viewers?
I think that the question for tonight should be, God, what is your greatest desire for humanity as we journey along the road to completion?
I like that. That has got a wonderful mission-driven aspect to it. And I am a mission-driven guy. So with that, let me share with you the reading from our previous show. And before I do that, just to tell everyone, if you haven't seen the first show in the series, please watch it. It'll explain to you about these readings and that they are for reference only. That's all you use them for. And your God question from the previous show was, God, will there ever be a time when our universe ceases to exist? And here's the answer I got.
God, will there ever be a time when our universe ceases to exist?
All matter changes form and function, and energy permeates all that there is. A universe does not disappear. It expands to merge with others to a new purpose amongst the multiverse.
Well, Dan, I think we've got a perspective on time. What do you think?
I think so too, and I think it answered a very important question. It also helped us interpret some previous verses about whether there is an end of time.
That's right.
So very definitive. It's a good one. Thank you.
Excellent. I really liked that reading. It was short, pithy, to the point. That's usually the way it is. And with that, our next show is going to be Creation 7, a variety of spirit minds. And we're going to be doing Creation 1:9. Dan, give our viewers a look ahead.
The essence was quickened by a ripple from the mind of God, and a creative thought was projected. This generated power which produced light, and this formed a substance like unto a mist of invisible dust.
And I will say that the One word in this that really intrigues me is ripple. Wow, that's powerful. I look forward to that. So next up, show 7.
See you there.
See you there.